This is the 308th episode of CloudFocus Weekly for the second week of August 2019. This episode is titled Commitments. CloudFocus Weekly is brought to you by you. If you love this podcast, share it with someone or drop us a review wherever you subscribe or listen to it. Ding, dang, done. I'm your host. Podcast.
Huh.
That's a crossover. Crossover episode. I'm your host, Jason Atwood, and joining me, co-host, 308 times in a row, committed.
So committed.
To the podcasting world, although many, many times he's tried to Hall of Fame it.
Yeah.
Wow. So, how's the summer going?
It's a nice, easy summer. I'm really enjoying the sun.
Yeah.
Really enjoying, took a little trip. It was really nice.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Me too. Having a great one. So, we are now on our third part, our summer series, GTD Summer Series, part 3. This week, we're going to talk about commitments. We talked about, first one, we talked about GTD Summit, which we're still kind of reeling about. I'm reading through all those books. Then we talked about...
I have a Kindle.
Yeah, you have a Kindle. How you liking your Kindle?
Digging it.
Which one did you get?
Paperwhite.
Yeah,
and I got the waterproof cover. I know you have the leather cover, which felt really nice in my hand.
Yeah.
But I remember, if you recall back a couple, however long ago that was when we recorded the first one, like a month and a half ago, I had those habits that I wanted to create, and reading was one of them that I didn't even mention because I was afraid of making an external commitment that I wasn't going to be able to keep. So I wanted to keep that one internal, and we'll talk about these things in a few minutes. But I got the because it in and of itself is waterproof.
Yes.
So I got the waterproof case so that I can take it out on the kayak with me, sit in the middle of the lake, and just sit there and not have to worry about like my Kindle falling into the lake. I mean, if it falls in the lake, I'm probably not going to be able to find it. But if in the event it does fall in the lake and I'm quick enough to get it,
right, it
wont break.
It's great for the beach. It's great. I mean, Kindles are awesome.
That's why I got the waterproof one. I didn't want it. Like the leather one was super nice, but I was like, I'm just going to ruin this, I think. So I'm just going to get this waterproof.
I got my daughter one that looks like a composite book, like the old
cool.
school. Yeah, that one's
that's kind of cool.
Yeah, because you don't kind of want it to look like a Kindle, because then it's like, ooh, snatchy.
Yeah,
gone. Right. I don't know how good Kindle or
it's like bringing
Amazon.
a library to the beach with you. Like
That's
now I go
cool.
to Long Beach from my buddy's place, and I always just have it with me. I know I barely ever take it out, but I bring it with because we're just hanging out on the beach, and I'm, if you're sitting there reading a book, you're sort of antisocial, just sitting there reading a book. But I quite enjoy it.
It's one way to get into reading too. Is like I find, like, even with GTD, bringing back GTD, one of the things to get yourself into GTD is also to give yourself a kind of a reward. Like that's the power of habit. Charles Duhigg.
The chocolate. Sunday
you give
chocolate.
yourself a reward. So one way to build a habit, you were trying to build a reading habit, give yourself a reward, a piece of technology, something you can play with.
I bought a Kindle.
We talked about OmniFocus last time. You're getting into GTD. Buy yourself OmniFocus. Like, here's a new tool to play with. Like, sometimes that reward system helps out. All right, but we're not talking about rewards. We're not talking about habits. We're talking about commitments.
And I just mentioned an internal one that turned into an external one.
Well, why don't you help me?
Sure.
And just start off by, let's define what a commitment means in GTD world.
Sure. So anytime that somebody maybe asks you to do something, or anytime that you have stated that you are going to do a thing, you have essentially made an agreement, which we can read. Agreement, commitment, to me, they're virtually the same. You've made that commitment to doing that thing. I'll give you a very concrete example and I'll tie it to GTD. I have committed internally and externally to practicing GTD. And for me, a very key core part of practicing GTD is making sure that I do a weekly review at the very least once a week. And a way that I have kept that commitment is by making it very visible to the public. And I've I've made the first thing that I do whenever I start a weekly review, I tweet out into the universe that I'm doing it. Why do I do that? Now, a lot of people probably see, and I've actually seen some Arkis who do this as well now, and they like that tweet, and they do it themselves, and I like their tweets and all that fun stuff, which is really cool. I love that you fellow Arkis are doing that. But that is a really great way of keeping that commitment, because I've stated I'm doing this thing, and I'm making it visible so that everyone can see that I'm doing it. So I'm committed to doing this thing. I'm not going to break that commitment, because it feels stinky to break those things. And I'm gonna make sure that I let people know that I'm keeping this commitment to do this thing. And sometimes you can't do the thing, so you've got to figure out a way to renegotiate that commitment with yourself or with someone else. But boil it all down to, I said I was going to do this thing by this date. You've got to do it.
So let's break down. So I'm going to break it down a little bit more.
Okay. I don't know why you ask me things.
No, it's just, I'm going to
just want to
No, I'm going to do a different take on it.
Okay.
That's your take.
That's my take.
I'm going to go more.
Give me your take.
The GTD, not the GTD. Why? Because let's go back to why I started with GTD. Why I started with GTD? Because I was breaking a lot of commitments and I felt bad. That's the basis of it. Procrastination is not doing something and feeling bad about it.
Right.
Procrastination is not fulfilling a commitment and feeling bad about it. Mm-hmm. Right. There's
happy.
Millions of things that I'm not doing right now, but I don't feel bad about them. Most people feel bad about the things they're not doing, and these commitments they make to others and to themselves, and they feel bad about it, which creates stress. Mm-hmm. So stress-free productivity, the name of the book, is really about saying, hey, you have all these commitments, but you don't know all of them. You forget some of them. You don't live up to them, and that makes you feel bad. And you don't like living in a world of not feeling good, feeling icky, breaking them, not forgetting to lend that book to your friend that you said them, or they sent over their resume and you said you'd get back to them on Monday with having read it, but you didn't read it. And so they come back to you on Tuesday and say, hey, did you read that resume? I need it for tomorrow. And you're like, oh crap, I'm sorry. Like, that feeling is not good. Or you're going to make it to your daughter's recital or something, and then you forgot to fill out the paperwork, so then she couldn't go to it. Well, then you feel bad. Like, the whole point is that you have hundreds and hundreds of commitments all the time. Some you make, right? Some are just sort of part of your life, like paying your taxes. It's a commitment. You don't have a choice in the matter. And then they're both. We like to break them into external and internal. External meaning something you commit to somebody else, and then they're right to the world, whether it's your boss, your client, your spouse, your friend, your whatever, your kid, your family member. Those are external. You're going to do something for somebody. You're going to help them. And you make them all the time, and people make them all the time. But you know how it feels when someone makes a commitment to you and says, oh, I'll do this for you, and then doesn't do it. You're like, oh, God, that's not nice of you.
Yeah.
Like, you said you'd return that to me, and you didn't, and I had to go on vacation without the thing that you said you were going to return.
Right.
Then there's the internal. We make tons of these. We make internal commitments all the time, things we want to do to be better, habits we want to build, want to be healthier, more mindful, I want to go to more yoga, I want to whatever. Your trick is actually just taking an internal commitment and making it external.
That's right.
To create some...
I create visibility to my internal commitments so that I'm not accountable only to myself. I'm accountable to the world.
And the whole idea behind GTD is all those commitments, right? So all those commitments are what we consider non-time-based commitments, right?
Right.
The ones you think about, we're actually going to talk about that next time on
next time on CloudFocus whenever.
We're going to talk about all the time-based commitments. And everybody's very equipped at doing time-based commitments. That's a calendar event. You have a thing on your calendar to go out to dinner with somebody, you go. You have it, you're going to go, the plane is going to take off, you're going to make it because it's on your calendar, you know when to leave. The recital's at Monday at 10, whatever. Everybody's very good at it.
Or you're not. Or you're not.
Right.
That's the thing. Like, you may not. Well, you may miss the recital.
Well, I'm saying, but everybody's very good at having a trusted system that they that they trust their calendar. No one tries to memorize what they're on their calendar. No one tries to just try to go through it and remember. Like, they know to put things in their calendar, and they look at it, they review it weekly, daily, every day before they get up. They review it the first thing in the morning. What are my time-based commitments today? GTD is saying, hey, Liz, that's great. Time-based commitments are awesome. You got that down. What about everything else?
Right.
What about all those other things in your life that don't really have a time to them? They're not on the calendar.
And what GTD allows you to do with those commitments is to understand your capacity at that moment and empowers you to say the word no.
Yeah, that you just jumped to like black belt level.
I understand, but that's the thing. If you get there to the point where you understand your own capacity and you understand what you can do in a moment in time, because, and again, I'm bringing this back to what I learned at the summit, and I'm still chomping on it.
Months later,
just still chewing on it. It's like, man, we really have the ability to do all the things we want to do. We just can't do them all at once. Like, that's the deal. Sorry. Knowing where you are and what you're committed to doing and what you're not at any given moment helps you to understand whether you can do more or less. And that power of saying no and having a reason for it. Like, not just no because I'm a jerk and I don't want to do that, right, but no, and here's why. And may I offer this other solution, perhaps? Like, I can't do that, I'm sorry, but can I help in this way? Or, I can't really think of a very concrete example of that, but it's like, offering up the compromise, if you will.
Yeah, because sometimes you can. I mean, we'll talk about renegotiating commitments, but you can also take a commitment. Someone's asking you a big commitment, and you can say, "I can't do that big commitment, but let me help in this smaller way." And sometimes, but again, this is where I think most people in their life don't know. They don't have a place to go and look at all of their commitments, all of your internal and external commitments. Fill up your calendar. Now you have all of your time-based commitments. I have this view of all the things that are on my plate, right? All the things that I'm committed to doing, either internally, externally, or time-based, and I can see them all. And by putting them in front of me, I go, wow, that's a lot. So when someone comes in right after my weekly review and goes, hey, can you do this, this, and this, I can then go either, sorry, I got a lot on my plate, or I can look at my commitment and I go, hey, that one I'm going to renegotiate.
MIT, most important task.
Like,
it might be something super important that someone came at you yesterday with.
Yep.
You captured it, and you didn't really think about it, and then it's like they followed up with you the next. It must be super important to them, and you can internalize that and say, all right, I'm going to help them with that because I have the capacity, because I'm going to push off these two other things.
Most people's stress, and this is actually something that came out of the GTD Summit, I kind of want to riff on a little, because I was thinking as people were saying it, and one of my thoughts was, there's a lot of talk about nowadays in society, stress and overworked and this and that. And stress comes from my feelings, my whatever, living in a GTD world, is stress comes from being overcommitted. I have too many things on my plate and not enough time, only 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, whatever, 365 days a year and 70 to 100 years to do it. Like that, I'm overcommitted and I can't get it all done. And the stress is I can't get it all done, and I'm going to miss and break some of those commitments, which makes me feel bad. Or B, there's some of these commitments I don't even know what they are, and I'm overly stressed because my brain doesn't even know what the commitments are, and therefore I'm kind of stressed, like in the I keep remembering the other commitments that I forgot, and that's a high level of stress. People generally like to be relaxed. When do people say they're the most relaxed?
On vacation.
That's right. Do you know what happens to people before they go on vacation?
Tell me.
They renegotiate their commitments. They go through their calendar and they block it off. And then they go to the person that they cat sit for and they say, I can't cat sit for you this weekend. And they go to whatever. They renegotiate all their commitments and they basically clear their plate. And they get a hold of them and they lower the level of commitments they have because they can't do them because they're on vacation. So then they go on vacation and they feel less stress. But I'm like, why is it? That's actually terrible that in our world, we're only less stressed and not stressed 2 to 3 times a year. 2 weeks, 3 weeks, those are the 3 weeks a year you're not stressed. So the other 49, you're totally stressed. How horrible is that? Why don't we just say no? I don't feel that way. I don't live my life in a, like, I don't, this is going to sound crazy. I don't feel less stressed on vacation than I do now. Like, because I can control my commitments, and because I can say no to stuff, and I can say, I'm not going to put my time and effort into this, or I can look at, and again, one of the features of OmniFocus, I look at a number. There's a number. It shows me how many active projects I have, and I use that as a gauge. I know my number's 30. It's 30. Active projects, 30. Anything over 30, it's getting too much. Anything under 30, down to 20s, I'm like looking for things to do. It's like, hey, Justin, what can I do now? Like, I just know I've done this for so many years. But like, that's where GTD can help you with your commitments, is that if you know what they all are, you can look at them. You can renegotiate with people. You can say no to stuff. And you're not stressed. It is, I know it's like going back to the whole thing, productivity, like, stress-free productivity, but wouldn't that just be wonderful if you're not stressed more than twice or 3 times a year?
It would be the greatest. And I mean, some of these commitments and the non-time-based commitments types of things are like things that could rattle around in your head. Like, oh, when do I need to buy cat litter? And I have a cat. When do I need to buy cat food? Like, why should that be rattling around in your brain? Like, that's a commitment. You have a cat.
You bought a cat. You have to keep it
got
alive.
a cat. The cat needs to live.
It can't buy its own food.
You love the cat. The cat can't go get its own litter. The cat can't go get its own food. The cat can't take itself to the vet.
You committed to keeping it alive.
Exactly. That's the huge, big picture commitment. This cat is going to be alive as long as I can possibly keep it alive.
Right.
And if you miss getting the cat food because you just had too much else on your mind, and then all of a sudden you go to feed the cat and you're like, oh no food.
Right.
Like, come on, people.
Grow up.
Grow up. Like, get the commitments out of your head. It's not for that reason. You already know that you need to buy the cat food, and you know how often you need to buy the cat food. So just put that on autopilot. Put that commitment on autopilot and let it go.
Yep. And
free yourself.
And it does actually work. Again, I don't want to get too much on the preachy side, but that's sort of the big thing, is if you can really look at all of your life's commitments and say, this is it. And again, there's some that are coming up. Like, that's what I think one of the great things about weekly review is that, what do? You look forward.
Yeah.
You look back weeks in your calendar, right? I go back 3 weeks. I look at things. I just kind of scan the calendar. I'm looking for any past commitments that might actually either turn into future commitments or things that I might have missed. Mm-hmm. And then I look forward. I look forward weeks or months or sometimes 6 months. It depends. I always say my thing in my tasks in my week review is until I feel comfortable, right? And I start going until my calendar starts emptying out. But I almost always find something. And these are all these commitments. But some of them are time-based. Mm-hmm. But some of them are time-based that you need to do something about now.
What's funny is
you're about to capture something?
That key was me. Yeah. That's me just capturing something.
Okay, you can capture it.
Well, that was the thing that we saw, right? Was I think it was one of the first speakers on day 2 in the summit. Man, it was a while ago. It's hard for me to remember. But it was the woman who started Vital Smarts.
Emily Gregory.
Thank you. Good job. She talked a lot about your phone being an incredible capture tool. And she gave us a little skill where oftentimes if you and I are having a conversation,
yes,
it would be rude if I just pulled my phone out in the middle of it and started typing on it. You don't know what I'm doing.
Probably texting
I might
your wife
be
cat
texting.
pictures.
Exactly. I might be tweeting. I might be on Instagram. I might just be checking my email. I might just be ignoring you because you're boring.
Right.
But
Definitely.
there's a little trick, a little skill. It's like, tell the person, hey, that was real. What you just said, it sparked an idea in my brain. I just need to write that down for a second. Sorry.
Right.
And then.
So what are you writing down?
Just write it down.
What are you writing down?
I don't want to tell you.
Oh, okay. It was that. That's an internal commitment. All right. righty. Well, that just made you go red, but that's why OmniFocus is encrypted. So your stuff is not out there in the public. Anyway, so
no, I'll tell you what I'm writing down.
Okay, you can.
I need to ask you which Jets games. Now that we're like basically at the precipice of the start of the season, which ones am I really going to?
Okay, we've reviewed that before, but we can review it again. I have it in Evernote. I can tell you.
Right, I know you do, but yeah. I need to put them on my calendar.
Oh,
they're not
you
actually
need to put them on your
there.
calendar.
Yeah.
They're on my calendar.
Right, but they're not on my because I don't have that Evernote note.
No, I actually put them on my calendar. You could say, "Can you invite me to the ones that are on your calendar?"
That's what I'm going to do. I just capture it. I'll do that later.
There you go. Well, you just do that now. So, again, I just think this is a big concept of OmniFocus. Sorry, of GTD. It is something that people really struggle with. I really want people to start thinking about those. Think about your internal, external commitments. Think about where you're putting them, and think about when you're reviewing them. You review your calendar, your time-based ones, all the time. Monday, Tuesday, you review it, you look at it. It's constant. But I guarantee if you're not doing GTD, you're not reviewing or looking at all those other commitments, and so they are getting stale. So they are not getting love. So they are slipping, and that is creating stress in your life.
Right.
And it's not good.
So here's a fun commitment that I've made. It's sort of a relationship commitment with my wife, the little lady. She loves getting flowers.
Yes.
She just really loves having them in the house. She likes the way they smell. She likes the way they look. They brighten up the place. And it makes her feel good to know that I think about her and get her flowers.
Right.
I don't think it would disappoint her to know that it's GTD that keeps me on top of getting her flowers, but I have a commitment now where I buy her flowers every 8 days.
Every 8 days?
Correct.
Okay. So that's how long flowers last in the vase?
Just about, yeah.
All right.
Like I've sort of figured it out. Like,
well, I saw you doing this the other day, and I was like, why don't you just subscribe to like a calendar of the week thing?
You can subscribe, but you don't have any real control. I like to pick the flowers.
Right. And write the card.
And exactly, write the card. Like it was a different card last week than it was 2 weeks ago. It's depending on what's going on in my life, what's going on in her life. She's getting flowers every 8 days.
Getting a big fight, maybe 16 days.
Maybe 16, maybe like get a bigger one. I don't know.
Depends who started the fight.
Exactly.
Who was wrong.
But it's something that she's now like almost expecting, I think, to like have like, oh wow, flowers just show up every week. This is great. Well, that's a commitment now that I've, we haven't necessarily agreed, hey, I'm going to buy you flowers every week, but she really loves getting them, and I really love seeing her happy getting flowers, and it's such an easy thing for me to do, to remind myself every 8 days to get her flowers. And how would I do that? Like, would I throw that on a calendar as a recurring event every 8 days? Like, that's a weird thing to do, but it would be a way to capture it.
But here's the thing. That doesn't scale well. No. That's why I would say that would not work.
Everything that you have to do every 4 days, every 8 days, every 6 days, like, where does that, like, your calendar would look like a mishmash of nothing.
Right. And again, just one last thing, and then we'll get off commitments. We'll come back we'll go do something else for next week. But I think when you start to think about it, you start to think about commitments as not just being things they are people, right? They are other people in your life. Your friends, your friendships to others is a commitment. I'll say that again. Your friendships to others is a commitment. There is a commitment. There's a level of commitment. It's actually a commitment to, to celebrate them, or to know that they went to the hospital and to ask them or see if they're okay or whatever. Like your family members, your children, your pets. So you don't just think of it as like getting dog food. Sure, that's the low-level task. The commitment is you bought a dog. You have another life that you've told that you're gonna keep alive and treat well. So that's why I think it becomes easier. Like again, I keep in my OmniFocus, I have a project for each one of my employees, my direct reports, let's call it. Just because I have a commitment to them, right? They are, and so when I'm going through my week review and I'm capturing things, I can I can go and look at them and go, oh, right, I need to do this for that person. Sometimes I capture all the waiting fors, and we've had whole things about waiting fors. That's their commitment back to me. And that's also important, right? I have a key command to pull up, I won't give the person's name, but it's a shift command and then a letter, and I can pull up
You
the
won't
waiting.
even give the letter.
I won't even give the letter because I only have
it's probably the start of their name.
probably the start. Wait, do I have one? I have two people by two names, so I could give one letter, but it wouldn't give them away. But it will then bring up everything I'm waiting for from that one person. I built a custom perspective just for that. I have a perspective that I can show just all the stuff I'm focused on with my daughter, all the things. Because again, massive commitment. Again, it depends. Something's going in and out like that, but vacations, trips you're going to take in the future. Mm-hmm. Again, all the stuff you do around the house, all this repeating stuff, all these things that are in your life, they're all commitments, and they all wear on your brain, and your brain isn't very good at reminding you when you need to do them.
Right.
You're in the shower. They had a thing at the GTD Summit 2 months
best
ago.
Ideas come in
when
the
your
shower.
best ideas come is in the showers because you're cut off from all the other stuff. But it's also the worst time to get a good idea.
Right, because you can't write it down.
You can't write it down. How many
That's
times?
why you bought us waterproof notepads
I
like
did.
2 years ago.
Right, and I used to use them because you sit in the shower and you're like, oh, crud. Because your brain, if then given the chance to have clear space, the shower, it goes, and then it has ideas, and it has concepts, it has thoughts. I mean, that's a big thing. But anyway, so that's it. That's it for commitments. Maybe last moment is renegotiating. This is... if you make commitments to people and you have a place that you put them and you review them, it also allows you to renegotiate. Hey, and this works more in business, I think, with my two business partners, you and the one that should not be named. Sometimes I'll just go and go, I'm overloaded. I said I was going to do X. I can't do X. Mm-hmm. So I need to do Y. Like, can you do X? I can defer it. Or is this really the most important thing? I made the commitment to do it, but let's renegotiate the commitment now because I've got too much on my plate right now. Mm-hmm. Or... I made a commitment to get a deck to somebody the other day, and I went back to them before it came up, and it's been on my system, and I went, hey, I need more time to work on this. But I did it not 10 days after it was due. I did it before it was due, and I said, here's why. I've got some stuff I want to put into it, blah, blah, blah. And that type of stuff goes from, oh, crap, I forgot to do something, to, oh, yeah, I know that's coming, but I know I don't have the time to do it, so let me renegotiate it now. And that changes everybody's behavior towards you, and it's a really, really, really cool tool. So that's commitments. Next week, we'll be back with calendar management. Man, we can talk about calendars for 16 hours, but we won't. And that'll be the last of the series. Man, it's going to be crazy, but that'll be the end of this month. So until then, it's Justin Jason saying, enjoy those cloudy days.